So thinking more about just two human studies, which I'll show you, and these were intervention studies, but essentially these are considered to be better than studies where you just observe everybody in the population, because what it means is that you control everything, and so therefore your findings are a little bit more sound. They should be more sound. And I mentioned at the beginning that we were interested in whether the N6 polyunsaturated fatty acid could inhibit the conversion of those enzymes that I showed you. And so they did an experiment to see whether if you reduced the ratio so that it was much better, a 2-to-1 ratio, that would improve the conversion. And they compared that with a typical Western diet that we're probably all eating, which is something like about 10-to-1. And they did more things in this study, but I'm actually just going to concentrate on the part that relates to the data we're talking about today. And the way they reached the 2-to-1 ratio was to use flaxseed oil, rapeseed oil and corn oil to give about 8 grams of ALA a day, which is quite high. And also they did this study in non-smoking men and women who weren't overweight and who were of normal age. So if you look at the green bars, that's the bit that we're interested in, you can see that these are the results after they've done the intervention. And you can see that compared with the 10-to-1, if you have 2-to-1, the conversion is very much better. There wasn't much change in DHA, which is what you would expect from all the other studies. There was an increase in the DPA, and there was a 60% increase in EPA, which was significant. So it looks as though if you change the rest of the diet, you might get more benefit from ALA. So another study which was done just a few years ago, they were Spanish firemen, I think, and this was another intervention study, and this time they were trying to work out whether it was better to give fish oils or whether to give the plant-based omega-3. And they gave different doses, and these again were quite high. They did a 3-month intervention, and then you can see the results here. Now the top lines are where they had fish oils, and you can see that that's much greater. There was an increase if you had 2.4 or 3.6 grams per day in the blood of ALA, EPA and DPA, and you can see these levels where those green things are there, the green arrows are. So, but the only difficulty with this study was it was a very nice study, but they didn't control for the background diet, so they didn't know if people were still eating fish or what else they were doing. So, from my data, I would say that looking at the intake of the non-fish eaters, it was around 57 to 77% of the fish eaters, but the differences in the blood were very much smaller, so only somewhere between 2 and 13%. And so the explanation could be that my statistically estimated ratio was greater in the non-fish eaters. But my results were from an observational study, so what we did was measure lots and lots of people, and we couldn't control for everything, and you never can in those types of studies. So really, we still need to establish the conditions for optimal conversion of ALA to the long-chain N3-pufferin non-fish eaters. And ideally, what we could do with some very carefully controlled human metabolic intervention studies, where we do control for background diets, we control for gender, we control for age, body weight, and also dose response, because a number of these things have been coming in the literature, and there haven't really been enough of those carefully controlled studies. So my study generated a lot of interest, and I've had lots of queries and questions, and I think one of the things that perhaps we need to think about is if we're not, until we do have the really definitive evidence, in the meantime, there are things that non-fish eaters can be doing, and essentially what they can be doing is eating good sources of this plant-based omega-3, the ALA. And I think that if we were to find that eating ALA was good enough for us, that we don't need the fish oils in the same way to maintain our health, we might be able to leave a few more fish swimming in the sea, and we should just concentrate on a more vegetable-based diet, and hopefully that would help everybody. So thank you for listening, and if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.